Has the real estate market reached rock bottom? That's a great question. So in today's video, we're bringing the whole team together to talk about exactly that. What we are doing for some of our clients that want to sell is we are, either leasing the property to long-term tenants, or we're providing, some shorter term alternatives so that they're a bit more flexible when they want to sell. And, I want to introduce our newest team member, Jordan, who has a pretty cool hat on today. Jordan, maybe I'll let you talk about, some of that and what's happening in the short-term rental market.
There's a couple things in the short-term rental market. One, it is booming right now. And I think it's a lot of things that were mentioned. If the sales are down and there's not as many sellers on the market, they're looking for options right now to cover their mortgage. And maybe it's on variable, maybe it's increased. Maybe it's just not the right time to sell. They're waiting for the summer or a little bit later to go back into the property. And then just overall inflation. So they're just, how do we optimize what we could get in the market? And as the rental rates go up, so has the supply of the Airbnbs and short-term rental space. So it's very busy. People are looking for options. I think the key word that we've all said today is flexibility. So if you want the flexibility to maybe hold your property for a little bit longer, but having the option to sell when the market comes back, the short-term rental space has been that outlet for many people. So we've also seen some supply in this as well. So the overall amount of Airbnbs within Toronto has increased, but at the same time, the cream rises to the top. And when maybe an average IKEA rented furniture Airbnb once did okay on Airbnb, it's no longer doing that. It's really going to that next phase up of catered Airbnbs, and occupancy is still very strong, and the prices are really strong. So even though supply is going up, the demand's there, and really good units that are on the market are being rented.
One of the questions we get most often is who's renting these places.
So as we pull into the winter seasons for the short-term rental market, the holidays are really a very big piece of seasonality and pricing. So we have even in units that are 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom, it's families coming in, and they're coming in for maybe a 2-week period, visit family, head out again. So we have a very strong demand on that. There's still a lot of business happening in Toronto. So maybe post-COVID, where we didn't really see that during the COVID time, was you have companies coming in, maybe they're not exactly downtown, maybe they're in the Junction, maybe they're in Leslieville, and people just want to be closer to the office. So you have the people coming in 5 days a week, and then you still have the weekenders coming in to enjoy Toronto. That will eventually flip in once we change season into the summer, that are the most traditional tourist customers. In this rental space, you get a little bit of everything, but December is usually one of the best seasons for the short-term market.
Full disclosure, I'm one of those people that's seeing higher interest costs, and Jordan's going to be managing my studio. We were doing it pre-COVID, and I probably not maximizing it. So I think a lot of people are going to be interested in this. When they have secondary spaces, what are the options and how do I maximize revenue? And maybe you could just talk a little bit about what you do and why that's sort of a step above what would normally happen.
So that ties into my fun hat today, because it just snowed in Toronto. So I am going around the properties and making sure it's salted, shoveled, everything's good. So here's the take on short-term rentals. You definitely make more money on short-term rentals, even in low seasons and high. And once you actually just pile it all on, you're usually making about like 1.5 to 2x times rent. So it's very lucrative. The issue is it is no longer passive. You are in hospitality, you are shoveling, you are making sure the customers are looked after, and that's a full-time business. So how do where I come in is I take that very active business, i.e. shoveling and sanding on days like this, and I switch it back to passive. So I have properties of my own. We'll be working on yours, Paul, and I have many others. And basically what I do, I'm that co-host that takes care of all communication, booking. The key is pricing as well, just making sure following the market and getting priced correctly. A lot of times when people are so worried about their mortgage, they just want to cover their mortgage. That's all they're concerned about. And what's actually happening is they are driving down the price of what they could have been booked. So I have a lot of conversations with clients where they're like, wow, I can't believe I made that much during that December timeline. And it's like, yes, because we're competing against hotels and other places to stay. Your mortgage is easily covered in that aspect. So yeah, it's a very lucrative area, but we do see supply going up. So you really have to present yourself in the best way, like very well designed, proper space, and then you also just have to be that front end staff to your guests. They're not tenants. They're people staying at your unit and have the expectations, just like a hotel. So that's where I come in. I take that active business to a passive, kind of more turnkey. And what we see even in the slower months, it's still rating higher than a traditional rent.
And I think one of the important things to mention, because you're doing it now for me and for some of our clients, I actually think it's the way you do it. It's lower risk than some long-term tenancies, which maybe that logic's a little flipped on the head, but maybe you can explain that a little.
So there's one big one of if a tenant stops paying you. So it's knock on wood, and we all know we've all have a few nightmare stories of having to go and try and get the renter out. Fortunately, with short-term rental, it's really not the case like that. Everything is paid upfront through a booking site like booking.com or Airbnb. So that's never an issue. Also in terms of risk and like the wear and tear on a house, one, we take that very seriously. Like what I specialize in is the pricing and the booking the right people. So it's not just booking for anyone, it's really getting the right person into that right unit. And it's always backed. Like Airbnb backs $1 million against anything that happens against your house. So as you know, Paul, when I started my journey on my property ladder, my first townhome, I didn't even look at long-term rentals because I've heard so many nightmare stories of what could happen if you get someone that doesn't pay. And as Rue said, like a first-time home buyer, you're putting every single penny into your mortgage. I had nothing left. Like if they stopped paying, I'd be like, well, that's it. But I knew I just had less risk with the Airbnb, and I knew that it would be booking. So since that path, I always went into the short-term rental market. And yeah, there's maybe, and even wear and tear on house. I always like to bring that up. My appliances that I switched up 5 years ago, barely used, because most people are enjoying Toronto. They're going out to the restaurants. They're having a good time. They're there to sleep. Maybe a little more wear and tear on some furniture. But really, like if let's say the market picks up in July and you turn around and you say, I want to sell, no problem. You don't have to worry about organizing with a tenant. Your place is in show perfect quality, because in this market, you can't rent a short-term rental unless it's a 5-star place. So the next day you want to have clients in to come look at your house, you can. So just in terms of the flexibility, and maybe some of the liabilities that you would carry of taking on a long-term tenant with an option that you want to sell, short-term rental is a really good space.
I love the Airbnb on so many levels, particularly being a former landlord and having, well, I had 24 places, and having seen some of those nightmares over the years, I just love the Airbnb, having more control over that tenancy, as obviously as well as the cash flow. It's such an incredible tool.
And if anyone has any questions, I'm sure we'll get a lot of comments on, on the short-term side. If you want us to connect you with Jordan, shoot us an email, info@thinkto.ca. Like and subscribe to this video so we'll know to make more great content like this each and every week. Talk soon.